In this video, I'm going to be turning one of the coolest LEGO Friends sets that you've never heard of into a fully functional LEGO Star Wars theme park that's full of fun mini-games, exciting rides, and tons of Ewoks. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video to see how cool it looks when I put a full power LEGO motor in it. At the beginning of the year, I was scrolling through the LEGO website when I came across a Friends set that I've never seen before. It caught my eye because it looked like it had a big carnival ride for the main play feature, and even better, a surfing mini-game that figures could ride. I personally love to surf, so I was intrigued on how a designer was going to be able to mimic a surf action out of LEGO pieces and also animate the big attraction. I looked up a couple videos on how this set worked, and let's just say I had never seen anything like it before. From that point on, I knew I wanted to do something with this set, but I didn't know what until the LEGO Ambassador Network reached out to me about a special opportunity. Long story short, LEGO was able to help me make this idea become a reality with the help of their online Pick-a-Brick store. After explaining to them that I'd like to turn this Friends theme park into a Star Wars one, I got the okay and ordered my pieces. While my pieces order was being processed, I got the set in the mail from LEGO. Thank you LEGO for all the support on this project. Now the first step to transform this build is to pick a Star Wars location to base it on. I could have gone with Tatooine, but I thought that would have been too easy. Instead, I decided to go with the Forest Moon of Endor because I've actually been to the real location, I have a lot of brown and green pieces, and I can actually imagine the Ewoks building something like this to celebrate the events of Return of the Jedi. I have some great ideas for what I can turn these three sections into, and I can't get over how cool it is that they are all connected and move in unison. I was honestly surprised when I saw how many bags were in this box, and even more surprised to see how thick the instructions were. It's also wild to see just how many stickers are in this set, but it felt so good to be able to crumple up the sheet and toss them out. That's for all you LEGO Star Wars fans watching. I'm really impressed with how enjoyable the build process was, and I liked how I got to build each section individually instead of on one big base plate. Part of the reason for this is because they are all connected to this main gear section, which has to be the most complex thing I've built out of LEGO in a long time. The designers did such a good job integrating all the Technic into this system build, and it's all hidden underneath the floor panels. They did decide to keep the main gear section visible from the back, which I plan on keeping in my redesign too. I took lots of mental notes while finishing this because I plan on keeping the inner structure of each section identical to the original model while basically only changing the visible layers. After I placed this final section and tested out the play feature for myself, I was even more excited to start on my build. With my Pick-a-Brick order finally here, I organized all the pieces so I could start working on changing out the tan for forest green. In 2022, LEGO made the Indoor Speeder Chase diorama, which utilized medium nougat plates underneath forest green ones, but I thought this method would be too complicated just for me to cover up most of it with a brown walkway. Instead, I'll add smaller plant pieces all around the park when it's finished to give the build more depth. I will say that this whole process of swapping out tan for green was trickier than I expected due to the amount of pieces that I ordered, but I was happy with how easy it was to change out the light gray rock for an all gray one. I think it looks great with the dark green surrounding it and will look even better with all the brown I'm going to add for wood. After connecting the three sections back together, I started to place down my walkway. This is a replica of the original one, but I just swapped out the colors. With the stairs in place and the floor finally done, I took a trip down to my local Brixton Minifigs to grab some microfighters for the spinning ride. Brixton Minifigs Orange had just what I was looking for, a Millennium Falcon and X-Wing, both without minifigures, and then I went to Brixton Minifigs Pasadena for this TIE Fighter. Funny enough, I didn't realize at the time that this was a TIE Advanced prototype from the Rebels TV show, but it should still look good with the two Rebel ships. Once I figured out a way to attach them to the original arms and tested to make sure they didn't fall off, I swapped out all the blue pieces for brown ones, which really helped play into the story that Ewoks made this theme park out of their local resources like rock and wood. I also need to get a couple of minifigures for this build, so I dug through my personal collection to find this Indoor Luke and Leia from the Indoor Speeder diorama, and then a couple of older Ewok minifigs. To get a couple of more recent Ewoks, I decided to use Whatnot. Whatnot is a live auction app where you can buy all kinds of collectibles, including LEGO. I was able to hop on a couple of streams and get these fresh looking Ewoks right here. These guys will really help give my build some more life. Over May 4th weekend, I actually hosted my first live show on Whatnot and auctioned off a ton of Star Wars minifigures, and it was a great time. I'll actually be hosting another live show on Sunday, June 23, where I'll be selling a ton more LEGO Star Wars minifigures and giving away sets like these totally for free to those of you watching. Literally all you have to do is be present on the stream for a chance to win. Better yet, if you're a new user and sign up using the link in the description, you'll get $15 to put towards your first purchase. I'll have some Star Wars figures along with some other ones from my personal collection in the Buy It Now section of my stream for cheap, so you could definitely buy one or two from there with that $15. I'm super happy that I was able to buy these Ewoks using Whatnot and excited for this next stream. Thank you so much to Whatnot for sponsoring this video. Next up, I'll be redesigning this Kraken minigame. I currently only have enough pieces to make a rough draft of what I'm thinking, but I first turned this top section into a Sarlacc pit complete with tentacles and teeth. Next, I wanted to replace this pirate boat with this old Boba Fett minifigure so it'll look like he's flying around the mouth. I then swapped out the panels at the bottom to go from the pirate boat theme to a sail barge theme. Once I get a few more pieces to change the background to blue, swap a couple of parts out, and add a small stationary gun for a figure to use, this will look great. The main idea here is that the Ewoks made this carnival game after hearing about their heroes' early encounters with Jabba in the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. Now to start work on the last section. I originally intended on keeping the surf aesthetic and only switching out a couple of light blue pieces for dark blue, but I got the suggestion to swap out the surfboard for a speeder bike. Putting a speeder on this moving platform will make it look like the speeder is actually moving and can work as another ride for the visitors to use. I also decided to swap out the yellow beams for dark gray ones, but I made sure to use a cool technique with brown whips and plant pieces to make it look like vines have grown on them, and then I added flags on the top. Before I add the actual speeder, I'm going to put some gray pieces around where the white ones used to be to make it look like the Ewoks outlined this ride with stone. I decided to use the speeder from the old 1999 set labeled Speeder Bikes because it's a fun flashback to the first Endor set and is a little more believable that it's a theme park ride than a real usable speeder bike. To connect it, I'm going to use a couple of jumper plates and this trans 1x2 brick to give the illusion it's floating. I'm super happy with how this looks and can now start adding the finishing touches. As I said before, I have a lot of these individual plant pieces that I want to add all throughout the build to give it a bit more life and a pop of color off of that dark green. Since I didn't really place any trees, these pieces will help sell the fact that this is taking place in a big forest. I discovered this great technique where I can fit these larger leaf pieces up in the arches of these walls so they can attach without any snot bricks, and I utilized a lot of these fern pieces to add some much needed depth. Over towards the Sarlacc game, I swapped out the background for blue, changed my mini Sarlacc design, and made the top portion a bit more simple so the Sarlacc and Boba Fett stood out. Over by the entrance, I then added a large brown archway and little desk where an Ewok can stand selling tickets. I'm a big fan of how this is starting to look. Now, it wouldn't be a Star Wars theme park without all the Star Wars minifigures, so let's add them in. Thanks to my personal collection and finds on Whatnot, I have a ton of Ewoks to add to the rides, stairs, and walkways. There's also Luke, Leia, and some other rebels enjoying the food and the Sarlacc minigame. Using the crank in the back to put everything in motion, I'm super happy with how the Star Wars theme park turned out. Everything looks even better than I imagined it would, especially with all of the minifigures there to enjoy it all. There's only one more thing left to add. Although LEGO doesn't officially advertise the set with a motor function, they were kind enough to send me one along with a battery box. I've never used one of these before, but I know that these levers will control the direction of spin on the motor. The downside of using these Technic motors is that there is only one speed, and it's really fast and really loud. In order to get the perfect speed for this build, I built a little contraption that can house the motor and a small gear right underneath this bigger gear. This way, it can go as fast as it needs to, but overall have a slower effect because the bigger gear takes longer to spin. This is so sick. Looking at this fully functional LEGO Star Wars theme park reminds me of the Star Wars theme park that was in the Bombad Bounty short film years ago. I think my favorite details in the Star Wars theme park has to be the spinning microfighters and entrance where the Ewok is giving out tickets. Let me know in the comments what your favorite details are and what you think about this style of build video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll be displaying this build at Brickworld Chicago this weekend, so if you want to stop by, check out the build, and say what's up, please do. Also, don't forget about my Whatnot stream on June 23, and feel free to sign up using the link in my bio for $15 off.